So Vice had up some articles this week that were some of their best from 2014, since, of course, it came to an end. And one of them was on the creation and explosion of atheist churches. Now, I think we covered this a couple times on air as well, but I wanted to revisit it because there are criticisms of atheist churches, perhaps unexpectedly from other atheists. And I'm not sure I'm with that. So one of the things people say is, well, the whole point of being an atheist is to not go to church, so we shouldn't have our own churches. Another thing I've heard people say is, well, we are too rational for that format and that way of doing things, and that way of communicating, so we don't need it. So here's my response. If you're one of these people that takes these positions and argues for this, just don't be a snob, okay? I mean, if you don't want to go to an atheist church, don't go. And in fact, I probably agree with you. But don't shit on other atheists and other secular people for wanting that. Because here's the reality, in my opinion, that one of the strongest psychological reasons that people are religious is not necessarily that they believe all the bullshit that goes along with all religions. No, they get a feeling of organization and a feeling of community through their church groups, through their friends there, through the interactions that they have with people and the human connections they make while they're at these events. So my take on it is, why not steal that trick? Why not take the one thing that religion has going for it over secularism and atheism and make that our own? Because then we beat them in every way, shape, and form. And by the way, the idea that if you go to an atheist church that you're somehow selling out your rationality, that's nonsense. Because it's not like when they're there, they start doing sermons from the gospel. Of course not. When they're there, they talk about poetry and philosophy and economics and politics and all these things. And that makes sense. Secular people, those are things secular people would talk about. And you don't have to default agree with anything the person speaking says. You could have your own mind and think your own thoughts and just be in an environment of people around you who are like-minded. So I never understood this, man. And look, it's a lot of prominent atheists who are taking this position. Like, well, I don't like it, so I don't know why you would go. It's not about what you like or what any individual likes. It's about there are some atheists and some secular people who want to have that kind of an environment, and it brings us together in a way where we are using one of the strengths of religion to our own advantage. And again, that's the only area where they beat us now. So if we take that trick, who knows, the sky's the limit. Because we beat them in rational argument. You know, we beat them when it comes to government ideas and policy ideas. The only area where they beat us is we are atomized and more individualistic, and they're more communal in their thinking. Well, what if we take the atomized society and individual people and we bring them together, and they don't have to agree all the time, but they are getting together. And then maybe you find some points of agreement. Maybe out of an atheist church, if they get big enough, maybe that's where you find the next big movement to try to push us to get Medicare for all. Because that's an area where most people who are atheists, or a lot of people who are atheists, might find agreement. And then they might want to push for that, right? And ending wars, that's something that pretty much across the board, all rational people agree with. I mean, sure, there's some outliers where some atheists are pro-war, of course, but the overwhelming majority are anti-war. So good things can come out of that kind of organization and that kind of community, and to just dismiss it out of hand and act like because you don't like it, other people shouldn't like it, to me, that's pompous and that's arrogant, and that actually flies in the face of how atheists and secular people are supposed to think and act.